Welcome to part 4 of Talks with Dorks presents Never Say Die, and this one ties directly back to 2 episodes ago when we had the Kings of the Ring on, because they wanted to challenge 2 of my friends, the Strong Dads, RJ Singh and Sunset Skip. I kind of set the match up and answered for them, but I wanted to give them 2 also a chance. Tonight we have one of them with us, and he's definitely looking forward to responding and talking a bit about his own career. Please welcome British wrestling legend RJ Singh. RJ, welcome to Talks with Dorks.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here. It's great to be catching up with the podcast, and obviously looking forward to the show on the 31st coming out. Never Say Die. Really looking forward to that. And now, obviously, you know you've made this tag match, and I'm gonna give you a little bit of my response as we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think we will delve into that because I'm sure that will get a little bit as heated, not between us, but when we get there. But I want to talk about you a little bit because we have known each other since I had a full head of hair, you had a full head of hair.
And not a grey hair in sight.
Not one grey. I mean, I might have had the odd one when I saw some of the bigger guys coming at me saying, can I practice some moves on you? No. Back at the Dropkicks days. But early 2000s, a long time ago now, and I hate admitting that because it doesn't seem that long ago. But we've known each other a long time, and I have been witness to you go and have a phenomenal career. And honestly, you were already, I said this kind of last time we attempted this, but I remember coming to Dropkicks and you were one of the first people that stood out to me because you wasn't just RJ that was training with us. You were RJ that was already in the FWA when I stepped in. So it was like, oh, one of the FWA guys is with us. He's one of us. So let's start back at the beginning. Where did it start for you?
Well, you know, like most of us who get into wrestling, I was a lifelong fan. Just as a kid growing up, absolutely loved. I grew up on WWF in the late '80s to early '90s. Guys like Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, Mr. Perfect. They were the kind of guys that I grew up watching. And you know, when you watch those guys, and they just look like superheroes. Like superheroes come to life on screen, and that's what captured my attention for wrestling. And I carried that love of wrestling all the way through my teens into my early adulthood. And I finally stumbled across FWA, as you mentioned, the Frontier Wrestling Alliance, which was kind of the biggest indie really in Britain back in the early 2000s, from starting into the late 90s into the early 2000s. And I managed to catch one of their shows at my local theatre in Hertford, where I live. And I spoke to the wrestlers afterwards, and I kind of, you know, how can I get involved? And they'd been running a training school down in Portsmouth, down in Fratton in Portsmouth. So I kind of went along for a training camp, and by the time I'd done that, they opened a training school in London. So I kind of then was training in Finsbury Park again under FWA. And I kind of, you know, was training all throughout sort of 2000, 2001. Till I eventually made my debut in November of 2001, which is such a long time ago when I say it now. So FWA High School Hell was my debut, and we then the London school kind of folded in that time. So between debuting, it kind of folded. So the nearest training school we had then was Dropkicks in Purfleet, which of course is where we all met then, and a whole new group of us all kind of met there, and we kind of took our training there as we progressed on to work in more and more shows around the country.
I think that when you look at like Dropkicks, I remember that school as well because obviously Ash, I don't even know if you remember Ashley Reed from that school, the London school. He'd come there and done a couple, then he said it closed. I found Dropkicks and went to that lovely train station on my own that we all got scared of going through, but found Dropkicks. And then we also, but when you look at Dropkicks and look at, you know, the WhatsApp group we've got and just some of the names that are in it, and let alone some of the names that could be in our alumni of it, it is phenomenal to say there is a big part of what's happened over the British wrestling over the last 24 years come from where we came from.
Yeah, and you know, certainly anyone who was, you know, from the southern area and was working on the scene down south back in the early 2000s, I think just about everybody passed through Dropkicks at some point. I think probably one of the most, I think Wade Barrett probably being the most famous who turned his attention through Dropkicks at one point. So, you know, a lot of guys who then went on to, greater things at some point, I think, came through Dropkicks doors and did some training there.
I mean, Wade's one, but you've also got Nick Aldis.
Mm.
And I always remember, I was telling someone the other day, like I was telling Jacob, he's 7 years old, and explained to him, like the general manager there, obviously because I was hyping up thinking he was going to be Randy's opponent. So it was like, he came from the same training school, and I said to him, he's one of the people that when he walked in, people that looked like me, as skinny as me, and was really didn't have the look about them, went, oh, I'm not even going to get an opportunity. That guy's just got it, hasn't he? He's just
Yeah.
walked in looking like a Greek god, and he's gonna do okay. But that's what I mean. I mean, I know, like for myself, I did bits, and I'm always happy with where I got to on there. But to say that I got to see how these group of friends, these ragtag bunch, and there were some strange characters in our group that came through, but like the stories and the times we spent on holiday camps, going from there and coming to all these different shows, I think definitely shaped us all to where we are now.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think that was the beauty of it. Because again, there weren't a lot of schools around then. I
No,
mean, and the generation, I still talk to our friends, the new breed, when they started, and they were kind of a generation before us. There was only one training school really for them to go to, which was Hammerlock down in Kent. Um, and really, when we started, there was still a very, very limited number of training schools around the country. Whereas, you look now, any wrestler getting into wrestling now on the British scene, there is an abundance of pro wrestling schools all over the country.
apart from
You know,
Sussex.
apart from
I've
but
looked.
you'll find you'll find training schools littered everywhere now, and there's much easier access to really good training facilities. Whereas I think we were just carried on with a passion of there's not a lot, so you have to go with it. You have to dedicate yourself to it because there's not a lot of other alternatives. So I think that's what kind of drove us on.
And I think that's what kind of works. Like you say, like we were like drop kicks where we were was kind of that corner of the country. There was like the down south, the Portsmouth way. There was stuff going on. There was up north. There was obviously, I'm assuming, like the Wales and Islanders stuff going there. But because they all kind of then brought these companies that were just starting to do right together and swapping right wrestlers between them. Everyone we saw this our group go in and go and work with the guys up north, etc., and just expand, and it just became something. Like you say, when we started, FWA was the only name I knew of, and even then, I only knew of it because I'd started looking for
Mm.
British wrestling schools. So it it was all there was at that time because of what happened between the 80s and 90s. We were there for the beginning of that revival, and whether
Mm.
we were a small part or a big part of it, we were all so happy to be there. I think, like, just to have those times.
Yeah, and I think those really were the stepping stones for what you see now on the scene. That period between sort of 2001 to about 2007, 2008, where British wrestling really became hot property. You were not only did you have rising stars of British wrestling such as like Johnny Storm, Jody Fleisch, Doug Williams. You were then seeing the rising stars of the American independent scene. AJ Styles, Loki, Homicide, Jerry Lynn, all those guys, they were over here a lot as well. So you had this
Yeah,
incredibly hot scene, which unfortunately at the tail end of the 2000s, around 2000, between kind of 2008 and 2011, it really simmered down again. And number of houses started dropping and things like that. And then it wasn't until about 2012 where we again had that pickup again, which are then, and that sort of run from 2012, where you had the rise of companies like Rev Pro and Progress Wrestling and ICW, which then led itself to kind of the doors being open for WWE to arrive in 2017 and start taking a great interest in the British scene.
I mean, some of the things that we saw happening to this country, I always look to, for example, Triple H appearing at ICW. That clip, I just remember that clip of going, as if that's just happened, like as if the British wrestling has been on the mark. Because again, we saw where it was and how much it needed building. To see that something like that, someone that big, was appearing on one of these shows over here, for even though we weren't, like, I weren't part of ICW and stuff like that, I felt proud to have like seen that happen, that moment, and see these names taking note of what the guys over here are doing, and deservedly so, because British wrestling, I mean, you ask any one of our mums and dads and nans and granddads, British wrestling has always been a big thing. It had it had it just didn't, I don't know how to explain it, what happened in the 80s. It kind of just went, it's like they went, well, America's taking over, let them
Mm.
do it now. And
Yeah,
it was let them take over that side of it. And all those people that put all that work in kind of had to go,
yeah,
right, okay,
yeah,
we'll
definitely.
start again.
And I think what's amazing is that the the absolute top stars of American wrestling of WWE have at some point passed through our shores. Like you look at CM Punk, extensively toured around Britain several times and around around Europe and things like that. So we had a lot of these top guys on our doorsteps for a long time before they became big stars in WWE.
Well, speaking of CM Punk, ironically, obviously, I'm sure you know I went to Raw with Jacob the other week. Obviously, I hope you probably remember I'm a bit of a Rock fan, always have been. I've always, the relic was because of The Rock. That's why I was okay with it. But
Sure.
CM Punk was always my number two. Like just something about him, and weirdly, he'll hate me for mentioning his name, but something about him reminds me of Ashley Reed. Something about his mannerisms reminds me of him, and I don't know what it is, but I was like, I'm so excited. It's my first time seeing CM Punk. And then Tony, who you met last time from the podcast, we were talking about FWA shows because he was a big part of like going to the crowd, and we didn't know each other then, but we were talking about this. We realised we were both at an FWA show. I can't remember which one it was, but it was Colt Cabana versus CM Punk.
Mm.
But I remembered Colt Cabana. I did not until 3 weeks ago remember that the other guy was CM Punk, and I sat there and
Sure.
went, "Oh my God, how have I forgot that was Punk?"
Absolutely.
That's so
Absolutely.
crazy because there was loads of them. Like Kevin Steen was IPW, going to IPW and stuff like that. All these names that you like you say see up and down there were all over here
Yeah.
making a big splash in
Yeah.
what
I
we
mean,
were
I was
doing.
fortunate enough to be in I mean, back in, I think it was about 2007, 2008, around that time. I did a triple threat at York Hall with Johnny Storm and El Generico, who, of course, El Generico, of course, has gone on to become Sami Zayn, one of the biggest stars in the company. So it's very, you do get a lot of these big stars in WWE who have come from sort of humble beginnings and have passed through British shores at some point. So Britain is always a good, for wrestling fans, you should always be keeping your eyes on the UK. Not only for the wrestling stars we have homegrown in this country, but also the stars from around the world who pass on by at some point.
It's proud to say that we are part of the big part of like you have to pass through here to get the next step. Like you say, we've seen so many names. I could just even remember. I remember seeing Sheamus walking through Romford when I was working in a phone shop with Greg. I just remember
Amazing.
I knew of him because MySpace. I had him on MySpace and was watching all
Sure.
his stuff then when he was Sheamus O'Shaughnessy, and I just remember seeing Greg and this really big ginger haired guy go walking past. I was like, oh, that's that Sheamus O'Shaughnessy. And
Yeah.
then a few months later, I was like, oh, as if that's weird. Like that, he was in Romford, of all
Amazing.
places.
Amazing.
Again, I said this to AJ Slambino. I said the guy on the 27th of April is wrestling in South Carolina. May 31st, a month later, is in Basildon, Essex. There is not many people that can say they've done them two.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a double. What a double that is.
But with that, obviously yourself, your career, like I've seen and I've probably we worked together. You worked at one of my shows before in Langdon, but I've seen everything. I've seen the countless retirements that we've gone through. But it, let's ask: is it part of it? Is just that comeback feeling? Is it like The Rock? Is it the comeback,
I
or do
mean,
you actually mean it?
no, I mean, the first time I kind of said I was hanging my boots up, I really meant it, and I really thought
Yeah,
that was what was right for me, and it was right for me in my personal circumstances, and at the time. And I think what hindsight being 2020, as they say, given that again, I think actually what more wrestlers need to do is just take breaks and
yes,
just say, and not seriously say I'm going to jack this in or I'm going to hang up my boots or I'm going to retire. And I found this more and more. Actually, taking breaks is really good for you both physically, obviously, bit of time to heal up, but also mentally as well. Wrestling can be such a slog; it can be such a grind. and actually just taking some time to step back and step away. And I think, like any form of entertainment, you're kind of worried that, if I'm away for a long time, people are going to forget who I am,
Yeah.
and things like that. But I think I found time and time again, you can return to wrestling and still be relevant and still have a place, no matter how many times you stepped away. And I think it, 10, it's over 10 years ago now. 10 years ago when I first stepped away, I really thought that was me done. And actually what it was is that I'd burnt myself out a bit with wrestling,
Yeah.
and I just needed time to step away. Having been in it for sort of 13 years at that point, I just needed a bit of time away. And I think I made my fatal mistake came between, I was doing two other roles at the time. I kind of left the ring at the end of 2014, but then throughout 2015, I was doing a bit of managerial work for a company called 4FW based out in Swindon. And so, I ended up on the front line being ringside still, watching wrestling happening. I did some work with the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, which was like a childhood dream come true. And then I ended up on Progress Wrestling commentary team as well. So I was served as the color commentator for Progress Wrestling throughout sort of 2016, 2017, and it just lures you back eventually. Like when you're that close to wrestling, and it wasn't like I was physically broken down or anything. I was still in fine physical condition, and I think just being so close to it, I was like, well, there's no reason why being in the ring made me happy. Wrestling on shows makes me happy, so I should just get back into it. And then I did so, but kind of first quarter of 2016, I just decided, right, I'm going to get back in the ring again. And apart from a break in COVID, and a bit of time away to when my daughter was born, and I took some time away just to kind of when she was born, I've always come back to it. I've always just come back, and I think and don't get me wrong, there's nothing quite like a return if you've been away for a while, to have a bit of a return, and you come back and you kind of you go through all the stages of the butterflies of like, am I doing the right thing? That anxiety of should I be stepping back in here again? Will anyone care if I get back in the ring? And I think, once you're through that curtain and once you're back in that ring, a lot of that just melts away. And then you're back in the ring, you've got the crowd there and it's go time. And I think that's the moment you realise, yeah, this is all still worth it. This is all still worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, obviously I took lots of stints out. And again, wasn't up at the level, but you say there's something about the business when you've experienced it that is addictive. It is a drug to see, when you've walked out a curtain, whether it's in front of, EWF Days of Wrestling, 6 people in Stroud 1 minute, and then you're at a holiday camp in front of 300 people the next minute. We all went through that, but there was still no feeling of walking out there regardless. And this is where, for me, this came where the idea was. Ash had said it to me many a times over the years. I keep bringing him up, but he's always there to sort of say to me, you've still got a heart for a bit of wrestling. Why don't you just promote? And I'm like, I have a want to kind of do something, but I don't have a reason. And then this happened, and it was like, okay, here's a back in, and I do love wrestling, and I can't watch wrestling without thinking, one, I don't think I could do that anymore, and two, I do love it, and I love being around it. Why would I not want to do a show and put on a show and invite people that I've seen over the years and I love, and I've worked with good guys, bad guys that are friends and are good at what they do, and just have fun with it and try something a little bit different with this, building a show around a podcast.
Amazing.
It's like that. Okay. Now, like I said, I've followed you, and I've seen what you've done. I've seen what Skip has done. I generally thought that man was never going to come back from Dubai. He disappeared and made a career for himself there, but he's come back. You guys are now, it looks like you're having like as much fun as you've ever had by doing what you're doing with each other. But we've got a couple of people that are on this show, the Kings of the Ring, Richie and Sullivan King, who they run their mouth a little bit on the last one, and I was quite shocked by it because I had already told them, like, I have a connection with you guys because I've known you a long time. They offended me, so I can imagine what your thoughts were on what you may have heard them say, is that they feel like it's time for you to just hang it up and move on. Now,
I'm going to speak in the old teacher adage here of, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. because I was quite looking forward to meeting those guys. I was looking forward to working on the show with them. To then tune into the podcast and see them saying that strong dads are past it. They should hang their boots up. We're just we're taking up a space. Listen, here's the thing, and I'm sure Richie and Sullivan King, you're both going to be watching this and getting our response. Obviously, Ryan, you've made the match, so we know the match is going ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You're not the first guys who have had a go at me and Skip and told us we're old. Look, I'm going to be, by the time this show takes place on the 31st of May, it will be 5 days out of me turning 44. All right, so I am quite aware of how I'm getting on with my age, but I think the biggest problem is those two are mistaking age for experience, because when it comes to British wrestling, there's not many still around on the British scene with as much as experience combined as me and Skip have. Okay, so it's not the first time we've been challenged by a couple of young guys. Look, we have been in this game for over 20 years, right? I've seen them come, I've seen them go, I've seen people wander in, fizzle out in 4 years, and they're gone again. Okay, but I'm still here. All right, from 2001 all the way to 2025, I'm still here. Skip's still here, and there's a reason that the Strong Dads are still here. Okay, because we have taken on the best in British wrestling. We've taken on guys who've gone on to work in America, to work on Japan, to work in Mexico. Okay, and we're just at the point now, we're in our 40s, we're dads, we're family men, but you cannot phase us. You cannot come on a podcast, run us down and think you're going to phase us. And what's going to happen is they're going to find out very, very quickly that what they think is a weakness in our age is actually the greatest strength in our experience. And come 31st of May, in Basildon, the Kings of the Ring are going to find out that at first hand when they take on the Strong Dads.
See, and that's why I kind of may have jumped the gun by setting the match before I'd spoke to you guys. But as friends, I thought I got a feeling that they'll agree with me for doing this because, yeah, these guys. I said it there and then. Sometimes, yes, maybe it is time for people to move on and give up. But sometimes it's time for the youngers, the younguns, to learn a lesson. And that's what I was like, you really barked up the wrong tree, boys. And I'm very, very interested in this because whatever happens, there's definitely going to be a battle. And I can see, listen, someone's going to learn a lesson overall.
Absolutely. I mean, me and Skip are in the education game, so we've got to deliver lessons. We got to deliver lessons all the time, and the Kings of the Ring are going to find out for themselves that you can't phase us. You can't, you can call us out as much as you want, but actually, when you get in the ring with us, that's when learning's going to happen.
Thank you, and I can't wait to hear what Skip's going to say about this as well. Because I said I knew it's not going to bother you that this match is happening. It's just what happens, right? Sometimes people need to be taught something, and
absolutely
they're going to learn that lesson. And I'm all here for you. Don't you worry. I'm on your side with this. I am on your side with this. Is there, before obviously we know that's going to happen, is there anything you wanted to get across before we move on, wrap things up?
Well, it's interesting because when you and I first spoke about the show, and you and I first started negotiating, coming to work for the show on the 31st, and we were talking about it. There was an idea I wanted to have a chat with you, and obviously this is the first time we've had a chance to have a chat together.
Yeah,
just you and I, and obviously we've been a bit blindsided by the Kings of the Ring, because before that match got announced, I kind of wanted to propose an idea to you, and it's all to do with this championship, which I've got in front of you. Now, this is the Pro Wrestling East Men's Championship.
That is a beautiful belt.
It is. Now, I've got a lot of history with this belt because not only was I the inaugural Pro Wrestling East Men's Champion back in 2000 and end of 2023, I defended this championship several times against, an old friend of ours, Shah Samuels. I defended this title against. Wow. Defended it several times. I did lose the championship, but at the tail end of 2024, I managed to regain it. So, I am, like I said, I'm steeped in the history of this championship, being the inaugural champion and now the first and only two-time men's champion. Unfortunately, at the moment, Pro Wrestling East is on a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah, I heard.
They've had to take a bit of a step back from what they're doing at the moment. So they are not running any shows throughout 2025 with a return hopefully in 2026. So I was chatting to Pro Wrestling East promoter Frankie Fiat. I believe he was having some early contact with you guys as well. Now he said to me, obviously he wants to keep the PWE name out there, and as you may know as well, the PWE Women's Champion Nightshade has been traveling extensively in Japan, and during that time, she has taken her Women's Championship over to Japan and has been wrestling out there with that. So with that being in mind, Frankie, after some negotiation, has agreed that the PWE Men's Championship can also be defended on other shows. And I thought, well, with, Never Say Die coming up on the 31st of May, it would be a fantastic opportunity to have a title defense of the Pro Wrestling East Men's Championship. So, Ryan, what I'm proposing to you, as well as the tag match, which I will be taking part of, okay, Kings of the Ring versus the Strong Dads, I am also willing to put my Pro Wrestling East Men's Championship on the line in an open challenge where anyone on the roster for Never Say Die on the 31st of May, if they want to step in the ring with RJ Singh to wrestle for the PWE Men's Championship, I propose we put that out there for the 31st of May. We're trying to really build this show into something really, really epic. So what a better way than having a championship match while we're there? And I do mean people on the roster. I mean, Ryan, if I could even try lure you out of retirement, you talked earlier about coming back from retirement. I mean, if I could even lure you back in the ring for a shot with this, I mean, I'm just putting it out there. I'm putting it out there.
Listen, don't start that. Don't start that with me, because the temptation is always there. But it's been a long time, and that belt is. I'm gonna say it's very beautiful, and it may look too big for my shoulders, but it wouldn't look too bad. But I love this idea, and now my head's like, do I do it? Do I get somebody else to do it? I like this. I mean, definitely. I mean, listen, again, this is.
I'm coming. I'll be there on the 31st of May. I've got my tag team match, but the PWE Men's Championship is coming with me to that show. Okay, it's going to be there. If you think there's someone on the roster that you think deserves a shot of this, or you're going to go talk to the boys as you're putting the show together in the next couple of weeks, you think there's someone who deserves a shot against RJ Singh for the PWE Men's Championship, you let me know. We'll put something together. We'll get in contact with Pro Wrestling East. We'll put it on the dotted line, okay, and we'll have ourselves a championship match for the 31st of May.
Oh, I love this idea, and yes, let's make this happen, because if we, especially now you said it, it's on the podcast. I mean, maybe we should have had this conversation off the podcast, RJ. But I like that you've done this here, because maybe there's someone out there that's not on the roster yet that's listening that may want to take the opportunity. Listen, I'm going to actually think about this myself. I may consider this. I mean, more not just because I'm going to take the championship off here, but it's to say I finally stepped in the ring with you, right? Because that would be the honour. It wouldn't just be putting. I mean, I called it the artifact because I was the relic, but it's a spinning rock bottom against the DDT. That would be great, but it'd be the honour to step in the ring with you. I'm going to consider that bit. But I like this idea that someone may give me a message and say, I want in. Someone interesting. Okay. RJ, in fact, can you just pass the message on over to the relevant people at PWE and say, I said thank you, that I would be honoured to have their belt defended on the show. I'm honoured that you are considering working twice on the show, and that just proves that the Kings of the Ring are really going to learn a lesson of what hard work is. Yeah. May 31st, this show's just getting better and better, and I thank you for this, RJ. Thank you for joining us. Can we get anybody to go follow you anywhere on social media?
Absolutely. If you want to follow what I'm getting up to wrestling-wise particularly, I can be found on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. I can be found on Twitter at RJ Singh is King on Twitter. But if you're on Instagram, you've got to flip it around. It's King RJ Singh on Instagram as well. So if you want to follow me there, you can catch up. And I'm on TikTok, and I can't remember which one of those I'm on the TikTok with. So it's either King RJ Singh or it's RJ Sing is King, one of the two.
I'm sure it's DDT King or something on there. Yeah. Listen, I'll put it down in the description just in case.
Fantastic.
You're a man that likes people guessing, right, with different handles. I try and keep them simple. We are at Talk Dork Podcast. Don't forget, Tickets are on sale now. The link is below. This is going to be I can't believe this. We can have a little chat after this. I can't believe that I'm saying this, but not only have we got the Strong Dads versus the Kings of the Ring, but we've also got RJ putting his Pro Wrestling East title on the line. This is going to be fun. This is Talks with Dorks presents Never Say Die. RJ, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Goonies never say die.